symptomatic. So in the NBA, you have to have 2 consecutive negative PCR tests or 10 days. So I think when you're symptomatic, you pretty much count on those 10 days. So he'll be out for a little while here. And it's disappointing for Embiid and the Sixers because they've been in a roll here. I mean, and I don't know of any player who's been more cautious than Joel Embiid in dealing with COVID-19. Remember a couple years ago when he showed up to the bubble in a hazmat suit?
Right. Absolutely. There he is.
And I remember talking to him about this, and he said, I wouldn't have gone to the bubble if I didn't think we had a chance to win that year because he was that concerned about COVID-19. And at the time, he had a little baby on the way and did not want to bring that home to his baby or his pregnant partner. And now you do everything right and still end up with a breakthrough.
And that's the sentiment from checking in with guys on the team that I've gotten to, is that we feel like we've done everything right. So he is experiencing symptoms. We wish him a speedy recovery. And Embiid joins Tobias Harris, Matisse Thybulle, and Isaiah Joe as the Sixers in COVID protocol. So you mentioned it. They've been rolling. How does Philadelphia plan to move forward once again now?
Well, this is a good reason they went out and got Andre Drummond. I mean, this is going to help here as they try to move through this stretch. But this is a real setback for them. I mean, they're 8-2, leading in the Eastern Conference. They had a huge win in Chicago the other day, celebration in that locker room. And this is, I don't think many of us thought they would go on a roll like this after losing Tobias Harris and Thybulle. But they've won a couple of big games here. Joel Embiid hit that dagger against the Bulls to win that game. And here you go. It's just been one thing after another. He's had the knee injury that he's been working through and playing through. He was going to sit this game no matter what for rest, but now, obviously, with the positive test, it's going to be out a little while.
And hopefully he feels better soon. Much more on the 76ers coming up later in the show. But first, Ramona, let's go coast to coast around the NBA, starting with the Nets, who after starting 2 and 3 have now won 5 in a row. Kevin Durant is leading the league in scoring over 28 points per game.
Look how that happens.
I know. I mean, what do you think? What do you think of them so far?
Oh, I think he's the MVP favorite at this point. That was my preseason pick for MVP, and he's playing right up to it again.
So we're going to move over to the Celtics, who got some bad news on Monday that Jaylen Brown will miss 1 to 2 weeks with a right hamstring strain. Kendrick Perkins, how concerned are you with the Celtics having no Jaylen Brown?
I'm very concerned. Look, the leading scorer on the team, he's been very consistent. I'm very scared for the Celtics.
Well, let's give some love to 2 surprise teams in the East, the Wizards and the Cavaliers. They just keep winning. Washington is now 7 and 3, while Cleveland has won 4 in a row. But it was announced earlier today that Colin Sexton has a torn meniscus, and there's no timetable for his return. But senior NBA insider reported that he said that he's expected to have an extended absence. And in the 2 LA teams, they're heading in kind of in different directions. The Lakers are without LeBron and lost by 15 in Portland, while the Clippers, they got Serge Ibaka back, and they closed out the Hornets on a 27-4 run to win their 4th straight game after starting 1-4. So now let's take a look and listen to the weekend soundtrack.
Luka can walk the ball all the way down and take the final shot.
Here he comes. It's Luka against Josh Richardson. Luka's 3 to win. Luka Magic on a Saturday night.
Love it. For 1 second, I just stood there. I didn't realize I made it.
But he's got a little bit of time. Launches. Body ball.
Rubio.
Fakes. Fires. Puts it in again.
Ricky Rubio. He to go.
Nuggets hanging on to a 1-point lead. Tate inside.
We are trying to be a good defensive team. Power just happened to be there,
And Anthony's ahead of the pack. He'll throw this one with the left. Oh, Anthony putting on a show.
I've been looking forward to one of these in person for quite some time, right?
Facts. Shout out to the team, man. Shout out to RJ. Shout out to Dell. Shout out to Mo Bamba. Shout out to my whole team, man. We had to go get that dub, man. Shout out to the Magic, man. Let's go.
Man, I love news. I love journalism. I love facts.
There you go.
Cole Anthony.
Yeah.
I mean,
that guy can play.
That might be my winner of the weekend. But Perk, who was yours?
It's the Washington Wizards.
All right.
And shout out to Bradley Beal, right? I was one of those guys for staying put, saying that he should leave, but no, he's holding it down, being the leader on and off the court, putting up big numbers. Shout out to Kyle Kuzma, who's coming in and showing people that, hey, I could get it done without LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Shout out to Montrezl Harrell, whose season didn't end well last night, who's averaging 18 and 9 off the bench. The Wizards played great team basketball, and they had 2 huge wins over the weekend, beating the Memphis Grizzlies and the Milwaukee Bucks. Yep. So shout out to the Wizards.
Big game, big game.
All right, I'm going to go with the Cavs on this one
All
because they also have 2 big wins. And look, the Wizards are a great pick, but the Cavs have wins over Toronto and the Knicks this past weekend. And I made this pick pre-Woj bomb, okay, with Colin Sexton.
All right.
But Darius Garland's played fantastic. Ricky Rubio is back.
37 points. I wanted him to hit that 3 at the end so bad.
I got to roll my R's for as a Latino. Ricky Rubio, okay, had a big game in that one. And, of course, Mobley's been very good for them. Jared Allen, a lot of people question whether that big man rotation would work, even with Lauri Markkanen out there playing small forward. He's been a little dinged up, but so far so good on the results.
Ricky Rubio.
See?
What do you got, Ramona?
I'm going to go with Kevin Durant, okay? And I was one of those who was sitting about 10 feet away when he tore his Achilles up in Toronto. So for him to go back there, play a game up there, and leading the league in scoring again, playing at MVP level, especially with the way that Brooklyn has started slowly this year, I think for him to show how far back he's come from that Achilles injury, going back up to the north where it happened, that's my winner of the week.
For the first time.
Yeah,
I think
for the first time.
So much time has passed, we forget that it was the first time that he was up there. So I love being positive. I love happy. But if those were the winners of the weekend, flip the coin. Who's got to step it up, George?
The Hornets, they've lost 4 in a row. Now, they get the chance today, right, to play against the Lakers here in Los Angeles and kind of redeem themselves. But here's the thing. This was a trendy pick, right? Oh, this team, maybe they can win the division and then win the Southeast. Not so fast. Let's pump the brakes a little bit because in this league, generally speaking, you have to grow, right? Young teams don't just get vaunted into the postseason play and become dominant. They've got some players on this team. There's no question about that. Miles Bridges may be the most improved player, but they've got a ways to grow here still, and they're learning through that right now.
They've been in the league in offense for the first couple of weeks there, and people start to make adjustments.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Russell Westbrook. That stat line the other night, 1 for 13. At least he didn't go 1 for 20, I guess. But that was a tough weekend for him, and especially when LeBron James and Anthony Davis are out. This is what they brought Russell Westbrook to Los Angeles to do. When the stars are hurt, when the stars are out, you be the third star. And Russell Westbrook has carried teams before all by himself, and it did not happen up in Portland.
So we have then Perk as the tiebreaker. Who are you? Where do you fall in all this in the Hornets versus Russ?
I'm going with Ramona on this one, and y'all know how I feel about the Brody Russell Westbrook. But like Ramona said, he was brought to LA for one reason and one reason only, and that's to win the championship. And right now, forget the missed shots. Him at the point guard position, he's not doing a great job of running the team. I believe he had 6 turnovers the other night. He had a crucial turnover the game before when they could have had a chance, I believe, to either take the lead on a fast break. And Russell Westbrook has to get his mental back. He has to be more engaged. He has to come back to the Russell Westbrook that we seen on the tear last year with the Washington Wizards. And right now, he has been a disappointment.
Well, he's going to have another chance. They're back at it tonight to see if he can be the one that sort of rights that ship a little bit. And then with, LaMelo Ball, he said afterwards, maybe I needed to come in a little earlier in the fourth quarter. So we'll see how, little call out there. We'll see how that all shakes out. So we're 10 games into the season. So we might as well look at the favorites to win some awards. According to Caesars Sportsbook, it is Steph Curry that is the front runner for MVP. Raptors rookie Scotty Barnes is the favorite for Rookie of the Year. Rudy Gobert once again for Defensive Player of the Year. Ja Morant for Most Improved.
That was my pick.
And Tyler Hero for Sixth Man of the Year, who told me yesterday, that's my goal. That's what I'm going out to do. Perk, what's the best bet here?
You know what? I like Scotty Barnes for Rookie of the Year. He's a guy that could go out there night in and night out and get you 15 points and 10 rebounds. We saw what Kevin Durant said about him yesterday, and every night he's starting to show us that he has more to his game than just being athletic, long, and playing with a lot of energy. He has a very high IQ. He can really play the game of basketball, and I feel like he's only going to get better, and he wants to get better. So I'm going with Scotty Barnes.
Well, and he's putting the Raptors in a conversation that a lot of folks didn't think they would be in to start the season. So still to come on NBA Today. Can't we all just get along? Scottie Pippen doubles down on his relationship with Michael Jordan. And when, potentially, maybe, might we see LeBron James back on the court? It can't come soon enough for the struggling Lakers. Plus, Giannis Antetokounmpo has been to the white columns of the Parthenon, but now NBA. But for Scottie Pippen, it was anything but. And since the documentary was released, Pippen has gone public with his criticism of his former teammate and the man that many refer to as the greatest of all time, Michael Jordan. And while promoting his new book, Unguarded, Pippen sat down with Michael Strahan on Good Morning America on Monday.
You call Michael Jordan selfish in the first chapter. Why is that?
I mean, he was a great scorer, but a lot of things that he did was based on him as an individual. And I think basketball is a team game.
Do you think that Michael Jordan would be as successful without you?
No. But I don't think I would be successful without him. I think we both complemented each other in a lot of different ways. And we kind of competed and pushed each other to be great.
Joined by George, Ramona, and Perk again. So, Perk, I do want to start with you. What was your reaction, Perk, to what Pippen said on GMA?
I didn't see nothing wrong with it. I mean, the Last Dance documentary, Michael Jordan got a chance to tell his story and tell everything that he wanted to say. And Scottie Pippen is promoting his book, and Scottie Pippen has a right to voice on how he feels. Now, whether we agree with it or not, it's his right to voice and say how he felt in the locker room. Now, he's giving his side of the story. Look, my grandmother and my grandfather, they got old souls, and they used to always tell me, everybody is three sides to the story. It's Scotty's, it's Michael's, and then it's the truth. So at the end of the day, everybody's entitled to say what they want to say.
So I guess, Ramona, you're the person who's tasked with covering that third perspective, the truth. What do you make of this?
You know what? I think Scotty didn't like his portrayal in The Last Dance, especially the end where they talked about the shot that Phil doesn't call for him, right? When he doesn't go into the game. And I think what was hard for Scotty is I actually thought his portrayal was really good. I thought his entire life story is really inspirational. And sometimes we only see the bad parts. Like, we don't see the good parts in how we're portrayed. And then the bad parts, Scotty really is still not over that. He's still not over Phil calling the play for Tony Kukoc. He's not. He was hurt by it. He has not moved on from it. And I think in the documentary, it was framed in a way that it took him right back to when it first happened. And, I felt like when I watched it, his teammates really tried to exonerate him. A lot of people said, that we understood why he was hurt, and they tried to exonerate him. But, look, he still feels the way he feels.
Feels the way he feels.
Yeah.
Scotty's keeping it 100. All right, we mythologize people as time goes by. I'm old enough to remember Michael Jordan being the selfish player that couldn't win a championship. That was the MO on Michael Jordan. So what Scotty's saying is accurate. And what he's saying is he still was that guy. We just had better players around him.
Well, if you're old enough to know that, I'm young enough to know this. If they were still playing today, Scotty and Michael would be repeatedly featured in our next segment, and that is the top of the top. So what the top of the top is, I know we have some newcomers to top of the top. So what top of the top is, Perk, let me tell them about it. Top of the top is the very best plays from around the NBA, from over the weekend, from the night before. So first up, let's start with top putbacks. We start in Chicago, where Derrick Jones Jr., where did he come from?
Dunk champ.
There's a reason they call him airplane mode, Malika, because you see it right there. Skying above everybody.
Like a
Two hands,
G6.
Two hands.
What he does, oh my gosh, that was insane. All right, let's go over to Sacramento. Let's take a look at this.
Come on, Rashawn. Woo. Come on, Rashawn.
That was a
muscling right there.
grown man.
That's why the Hornets lost 4 in a row right there. Box out.
Ooh. Yeah, there was no box out there.
Box out, and that sort of second effort.
Standing there like.
That's why Sacramento's been rolling too. All right, let's do top stops. Hassan Whiteside in Orlando meets Terrence Ross at the rim. He said, get that out of here.
And kept it in bounds there.
Hassan has done a really nice job as Rudy Gobert's backup. He got them in that Heat game the next night.
Well, and then can you stop this? Take a look.
Come on, really?
Bye.
How many times?
I mean, he took a look over his shoulder just to make sure he was safe to just cruise to the dump.
Football player growing up because he just stole the ball.
Come on, Joker. People say you can't play defense. Show them you can.
Did he jump?
I mean, probably not.
He didn't even look like a
jump.
But that doesn't mean
He
it's
just
not
had long
defense. That
arms.
doesn't mean it's not important. All right, let's go to top buzzer beaters. Buddy Hield. Let's start there. Look at this. He's coming off
spin.
the way.
As my guy Mark Jones likes to say, buddy ball.
That was.
I think he practices that shot.
You got it, but he shrugs like it's no big deal. All right, check out this one.
El Gallo.
Off
Danilo.
the glass.
Hard.
The glass. All right, well, then we'll go to Los Angeles last night. Terrence Mann. I mean, he made it look easy.
I'm going to quote Mark Jackson. Mama, there goes that man.
He was gone, and Ty Lue's like, whoa, what just happened? Falling out of
This is
bounds.
the
I mean,
shot.
this is just. And he's done this to the Celtics how many times at this point? It's
Probably
just,
too many.
It's just
The entire
it's too
sequence
many.
that led to this, though, was
Yeah.
It was
pretty
insane.
inexcusable
All
for
right,
Boston.
let's go to top moves. Kyle Lowry in transition finds Caleb Martin. Oh,
Kyle Lowry has made that Heat offense look completely different
They
this
get up and down the court.
Yeah.
he's made it sing.
We were worried about their half-court offense.
What
No.
a move by him.
They're good.
All right, let's go to Orlando. Bojan
Oh, hello.
Bogdanovic.
See, he could have just finished it himself. What a good teammate.
He is. That is a great
Wide
team.
open.
Those
He
handles
could've
there,
gone for it
too.
himself. He didn't need to throw
Come
that
on now.
off.
That was pretty. All right, well then in DC, Montrezl Harrell.
Monster.
Look at the little move he hits at the end too. I love that.
Giannis right there,
this
too.
little hit, the little move. I love that. All right, we got to go to the top slams in the Bay, my hometown. Let's take a look at Garrett Payton. My goodness.
Officially call him Mitten. Is that
I was gonna say,
right? The
love
glove, Mitten.
I'm-
I think
I'm
it works,
I like
right?
it.
He's
I
as
like
good
that.
defensively as Pops. We know he get well, maybe not as
That's
good, but close.
saying something right there.
He is
Glove,
as good a
mitten.
defender.
That's a good one.
He was
All
the
right,
last man
lastly we go to
out there
Orlando.
Thursday.
Cole Anthony.
Come
He
on.
went and he's probably the airplane too. I mean,
That's Cole World right there.
and we're all just
Hey.
living in it. That's facts. I mean, that was insane. So what do you think? Span, top of the top plays?
Love it. Let's do it.
Orlando,
Yeah.
Raptors, I love it. I love seeing it all. It's awesome. All right, coming up on NBA Today, our panel gives you their power rankings. And wait till you hear what George put on his list.
What are you
This
doing
is going
over
to be
there?
spicy.
Hey,
I mean,
Come on
contrarian
now.
over there. Calls a source told ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski and Ramona Shelburne. Embiid leads the 76ers, averaging 21.4 points per game and 9.4 rebounds in 9 games this season. And the Sixers have won 46 of the 60 games Joel Embiid has played since the start of last season, but are just 11-11 in the games that he's missed. Philly is averaging 5 more points per game when Embiid plays, so we'll see how they adjust without him. So the Sixers will be without Joel Embiid for the foreseeable future. Perk, what is your outlook on Philly without Joel in the lineup?
You know, obviously you can't replace Joel Embiid, arguably the best center in the game of basketball right now. But when you talk about togetherness, chemistry, the 76ers are showing us that they have come together. And different guys are stepping up different nights. You have Tyrese Maxey, he may step up one night. You having Seth Curry, who's been playing phenomenal, almost at an all-star caliber rate. But most importantly, you have Andre Drummond, a guy that has a lot to prove. A guy that season didn't end well last year. A guy that took the vet minimum. A guy against the Portland Trailblazers a few games back when he started had, 14 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. And this is what Doc Rivers do. He loved adversity. He loved when their team is back is against the wall. And when you see the Philadelphia 76ers in their chemistry, I think they'll be okay and play solid basketball until Embiid gets back.
Well, and they've just hit so much turbulence this season, right, Perk? And we've seen guys like you mentioned, George Niang, those types of guys step up. It's just about how long they're going to be able to sustain that under the pressures that they've already been facing this season. So far they have, but that's mostly with Joel Embiid. So the Sixers, they have a tough 3 games coming up at home, hosting the Knicks, the Bucks, the Raptors, before going on a 6-game road trip that'll include stops in some tough cities: Utah, Denver, Golden State. That Warriors game will be on November 24th. It will be on ESPN, and I will be there as well. So I am curious, though, What do you think, Ramona? Do you think that we are going to see wins by committee, or how long can this be sustained?
You know, that upcoming schedule is rough. I mean, they were in the middle part of a really difficult stretch here. Now a game against the Knicks, the Bucks. Like, this is a tough stretch. And I was surprised they were winning without Tobias and Thibault and I don't know, the big guy not being there. That's a real tough stretch for them. But still, to be 8-2 with the adversity they've already had, not the whole with everything going on with Ben and with Joel's knee not being in a great place after he knocked knees with Valanciunas the first game. I don't want to write them off.
Yep.
I mean, they've gone 8-2 with all of that happening.
I'm going to write them off, okay?
Oh,
because 8-2 to this point is commendable. There's no question about it.
Piece of pen, piece
but
of paper.
No. I mean, that stretch is brutal. Like, let's be real. You know, you saw the stretch there. So because of that, I just don't think without a star on the roster, they're 11-11 when Embiid has been out, right? But Ben Simmons was there for a big chunk of those games, which allowed them to stay afloat. Now's when they really need Ben Simmons, right? Now's when they're going to need that particular player to be able to help carry them. They don't have that on this particular roster. Could they win a game or two? Perhaps. But can they sustain success, which was your question? No, I don't believe so.
So how do you see then Doc Rivers approaching this?
Oh, well, it's going to have to be just, by committee, right? Like, it's a meritocracy. It's not.
A lot of Seth Curry, a lot of Tyrese Maxey.
It's going to be whoever's hot, right? Whoever's
Right.
hot is going to get minutes, and they're just going to have to survive at this point. But look, it's early in the season. Even if they have a rough stretch, it doesn't mean that they're out of it by any stretch of the imagination. They'll be fine. They just got to survive these next 10 days or so.
All right, well, then let's look at the tough teams that they're going to be playing up against, because survive so long as they continue to stay healthy, too. So here's ESPN's power rankings as we head into week 4 of the season. The Sixers lead the pack as they won all 4 of their games last week without Tobias Harris and Ben Simmons, who has missed all season. But remember, these power rankings were done before looking back at last week. It wasn't including today's news about Joel Embiid, who's out with COVID. So the Warriors come in second with the best record in basketball at 8-1. Who would have thought? The Heat, the Nets, the Jazz, they round out the top 5. So I guess I got to start Ramona, George, Perk. He's coming in like the great and powerful Oz over there. As I mentioned, ESPN.com's power rankings were released before the news about Joel. But we had some time to process it. I got it so bad, I know. So let's get into it. Ramona, I'll start with you. I had to. Come on.
I know you did. I think that I'm going to still keep the Sixers in the top 5 just out of respect for what they've done. But I don't think they can be number 1 anymore. So to me, it's the Miami Heat, because I think offensively and defensively, that looks like the team so far this year. I put the Nets up there at 2. I don't necessarily just go based on records, okay? I base on who I think is the best team right now. They got Kevin Durant. He's real good. Put the Warriors there at 3. And then you got to give some respect to the Jazz.
Yep.
And the Sixers slide down just because of the news on Joel Embiid.
So not too concerned about the Jazz loss. All right, Perk, who you got?
You know what? I think the Miami Heat deserves to be at number 1. In my opinion, they have the best team in basketball right now on the offensive end and defensive end. Coming in at number 2, I'm going with the Golden State Warriors. The way that Jordan Poole has been playing, Steph Curry, not just scoring a lot of points, but cleaning it up in other areas, dropping dimes, averaging about 7 rebounds per game. Draymond Green anchoring that defense. At number 3, I'm going with the Utah Jazz. They have a complete team, bringing back the same team from last year. And then at number 4, the 76ers. I gave you my reasons why on them. I feel the camaraderie there. And at number 5, I'm going with the Brooklyn Nets. Why? Because Kevin Durant is playing some of the best basketball of his career right now.
Absolutely, and I like that. Another nod to the Jazz, nod to the Heat. I'm seeing some themes play out, at least across our first 2 folks. What do you got for us, George?
All right, I got the hot take at the end here. All right, let's take a look at what I've got here.
Number 1, a glass of water.
Number 1, we've got the Heat. We're all in agreement here.
George.
Kyle Lowry, by the way, a plus 62 when he's been on the floor this season.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that,
Plus
please?
62.
6-2?
Insane, okay, for Kyle Lowry thus far this season.
In 9 games?
They're number 2 on offense, number 4 on defense. Eric Spoelstra, Kyle Lowry, and them got him humming. I got the Warriors at number 2. Listen, they've been really good defensively as well. They're number 4 and number 6 offense and defense. I've got the Nets because, as Ramona mentioned, Kevin Durant still good. And the Jazz, despite their loss to the Magic, I still have them in my top 5.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that offensively and defensively, they're still just so sound. They just had a little slip up after the loss to the Heat against the Magic. Now, I had the Sixers originally at 3 before we readjusted, but I have the Clippers at number 5. Here's why. 4 wins in a row. Paul George, the Western Conference Player of the Week that was just announced recently. He is carrying this Clippers team right now, and they are, when healthy, if Kawhi comes back, a championship-level team. And we saw that they went to the Western Conference Finals last year with this particular group. I still give them the respect. They're playing really well right now.
Perk, I hear you humming and hawing like you're at church and they're saying some gospel that you like. What do you think? What Sedona said?
I actually like that pick at the end. It wasn't my pick, but I do believe Ty Lue has these guys playing great basketball. And then their last 2 games has been really impressive for the simple fact that they were down, I believe, double figures in both of those games at halftime, and they had to go out and get it in the trenches, meaning they had to come together. You see different guys stepping up night in and night out. And yes, they're without Kawhi Leonard, but they also without Marcus Morris. And so when you see Terrence Mann, you see Reggie Hot Sauce Jackson coming to play and doing this thing. I love what Ty Lue is doing. I love him having faith in different guys and putting them out there in position to be successful.
Well, we said that's top 5. We're talking top 5 in power rankings, but it sounds like the Clippers, at least for Perk, might be a team that could sneak in for next week. So we'll reevaluate.
Big game on Tuesday against the Trailblazers.
Big game. You mentioned the Western Conference Player of the Week in Paul George, the Eastern Conference Player of the Week, the Fro, Jared Allen. So that's good on him. But one team that didn't make it into anybody's top 5 this week was the Los Angeles Lakers. So what has gone wrong for the Lakers to start the season? A lot has to do with injuries, especially to LeBron James. He's already missed a whole bunch of games. We'll get into that. Has also taken a bit of a step back. Remember, last season, the Lakers had the best defensive efficiency in the NBA, and then 2 years ago, when they won that bubble championship, they were 3rd. However, this season, they have slipped to 13th. So I want to rejoin the panel, talk to them a little bit about this. Ramona, let's start with LeBron's abdominal strain. What is his prognosis today?
So this happened last week, towards the end of last week. Right. And at the time, the sense was it would be 1 to 2 weeks. The abdominal strain he has, I'm told, it doesn't feel all that bad right now. It's not necessarily something that's causing him a ton of pain, but it's something you need to be really careful with because it can get worse. And so that's why he's taking a longer timetable on this, because he does not want to have another setback with this. He doesn't want to be out 4 to 6 weeks if he has a setback. So this is why you have to be careful right now. Still just 1 to 2 weeks here, but can't get back soon enough, because when he's not out of the court, that offense is not working. And
clearly.
And that defense is even worse.
13th in defensive efficiency, which isn't what we're used to, Perk, from these Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, my bad. I didn't hear you, Malika, but look. I was gathering
That's all right.
my
I know you're going to go for it.
No, it's fine. I was gathering my thoughts, but look, here it is, okay? The Lakers are built to do what? They're built to win a championship.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook was acquired for what? To take pressure off of Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Russell Westbrook is leading the NBA in turnovers. The media, a reporter, asked Russell Westbrook about those same turnovers in preseason, and Russell Westbrook didn't give the answer that we expected him, or I thought that he should have given us. He was like, oh, it's just preseason, basically. And now, after the game that they played at home when he had the turnovers, a reporter asked Russell Westbrook again about, the late game turnovers, and he kind of answered in a not so professional manner. So when I look at the Los Angeles Lakers, even without LeBron James, they have zero excuse to come out and play that the way they did against Portland. Portland had been struggling. You still have guys like Carmelo Anthony. You still have Dwight Howard. You still have Avery Bradley. You still have Rajon Rondo. You still have Malik Monk. You still have enough to at least go out there and compete. It was just so bad. I mean, it was so bad that I was watching the game with my 2 oldest sons, and I made them go to bed early because I didn't want them picking up on bad habits.
Oh, man, I know what that. My father used to make me go to bed early for some of those Warriors games in the early 2000s. Yeah, but Perk mentioned that this is a team, George, it's built to win a championship, and you had them winning the championship to start the season. Ramona did too. So where does that stand now?
I believe there were 3 people at ESPN.com who predicted a Lakers championship. You have 2 of them here on the panel today.
Excellent.
I have them at the moment with this particular roster as currently constituted a bottom-tier playoff team. I think they need to make real changes. And look, here's the thing I worry about with LeBron. You know, Perk mentioned it a little bit, right? You mentioned it. Russ was supposed to fix this. When LeBron was out, he was supposed to be able to take the reins, no issues, right? Last season, when LeBron was on the floor, the Lakers were the 2nd best offense in the sport. When he wasn't on the floor, 28th. That is what Russ was supposed to fix, and he hasn't to this point. Historically, though, the biggest predictor of future injury is past injury, and we're getting to this stage with LeBron. Well, I think he'll be fine because he'll play this smart. He knows his body better than anyone. I start to worry about it because he may need to miss more games, and historically, outside of his tenure with the Heat, every other team he's been on has been under 500 when he's there, and this Lakers team doesn't have a ton of excuses to be this bad at this point without LeBron.
You know, it feels to me like Russ is just putting too much pressure on himself. He's trying too hard. I remember at the beginning of the season, I went to the premiere of his documentary that was on Showtime. The entire Laker team showed up to support him. And one of the things he kept saying in that documentary was, this means a lot. I just don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
And this means a lot to Russ to be here in his hometown in front of friends and family.
Yep.
He looks right now like he's just trying so hard out there, and that leads to all those turnovers.
Yeah.
Perk.
I can hear Perk kind of guffawing a little bit, but I think that has some merit to it. So I want to hear from Russell Westbrook. Let's take a listen after Saturday's loss to the Trailblazers here.
I don't put no pressure on myself to do anything. I'm very elite at what I do, and I believe that every single night. And that's how I need to play. Simple as that. There's no extra pressure of any sort for me.
I, in some ways, admire that outlook because I think that, you know, as a bunch of people, we put pressure on ourselves. That's human nature. But Perk Westbrook says, at least he says externally, that he's not putting extra pressure on himself. Should he be?
Yes, he should. I mean, and that's the fun part about going to a team where you're expected to win a title. It's pressure. And I've been on a few teams where it's been pressure. And you embrace that type of pressure because you don't get an opportunity. An opportunity don't present itself like this throughout a lot of players' NBA careers where you actually have a chance to win a NBA championship. And I said this, you know, when Russell Westbrook started struggling at the beginning of the season when I was on this show in studio, and I said, Russell Westbrook has to find himself some type of grace of being home, right? Being home, blocking out the outside distractions and focusing on solely basketball. You know, not commercials, not events, just basketball. Everything else could wait till after the season is over with.
Now, you know, Perk was on a team in 2018, I believe, with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He may have been gone already, but that Cleveland Cavaliers team with LeBron, they jettisoned half the roster, basically, okay, at the trade deadline. If Russell Westbrook doesn't step it up, Rob Pelinka is going to have a lot of decisions on his hands to try to figure out to get this team to championship caliber.
Perk?
I got one more thing to add on to this.
Finger up, go for it.
Anytime you're on a team with LeBron James, it's going to be pressure, period.
Period. With a D